Hello, I'm Ray. Welcome to Wine Tap Tips. Tonight we're here with Wayne Bailey, founder, owner, winemaker at Youngberg Hill Winery. I want to thank Wayne for joining us and explaining.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining your wonderful wines. Just a couple quick things I just wanted to make sure I have correct. Your wines, your total production is what, less than 3,000 cases?
Yes, it ranges between 2,800 and 3,000 cases a year.
And you're only in 4 states?
Yes, that's correct.
Oregon, Washington State, Illinois,
and Missouri.
And Missouri.
Yep.
So for people who truly want eclectic wines that are small production, family owned, these are great wines. We're initially just going to hit on your 2 whites, your Pinot Gris and your Chardonnay. How does your Pinot Gris differ from, let's say, most Pinot Gris out there from Oregon?
Well, I would say there's 2 things. One is that we leave a little bit of residual sugar on the wine, and we're able to do that because our wines are always a little higher in acidity, and which makes them a very good food-friendly wine. But it also balances out that sweetness of the RS. So that in and of itself makes our Pinot Gris a little bit unique. The second thing is that our grapes on our vineyard are biodynamically farmed, organically farmed, and dry farmed. And so these vines work a little bit harder, and we keep the cropping down a little bit. So the quality of the fruit's very good going into this. We're not about trying to make as much Pinot Gris or anything else as we can.
You want a product that is a good expression of the Willamette Valley and the soil that you're on, or the hillside that you're on, as well as something that is balanced that people can enjoy, whether it's a bottle today or 5 minutes or so.
That's correct.
What are some of the markers that you would say people should look for in your Pinot Gris as far as taste profile?
2 things. One is typically year over year, you get some nice, ripe, yellow melon characteristics coming through, and always some good, partially because of the acidity, some nice citric characteristics coming through, lime and lemon. And it's the combination of those 2 that really makes this a hit.
Okay. And now here's the next question. You have aspen on this. So these, for both the Chardonnay and the Pinot Gris.
Right.
Single vineyard?
Single block in the vineyard.
In the vineyard.
So our vineyard in total is about 23 acres, and the aspen block, named after my youngest daughter, is 5 acres of half Pinot Gris and half Chardonnay. And so it is a specific block on our hill.
Okay. So it's named after your daughter, not the tree.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Our daughter is named after the tree.
Okay. Now, who chose the name for your?
Actually, it was a family affair. So I've got 2 older daughters, and the 4 of us went on a road trip and came up with that name. So.
Oh, that's nice. Now, just out of curiosity, you were telling me earlier what Natasha and Jordan like as far as hobbies go. What is Aspen's big hobby?
Actually, Aspen is looking right now to be an engineer. Although she's very athletic, she's kind of somewhat tomboyish. She's really getting into a lot of taking things apart, putting things back together, and stuff like that. So I'm seeing a lot of engineering, like my little brother was, in her. So it'll be interesting. And the fact that I got an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, that's intriguing to me to see if she follows that line.
So you went from mechanical engineering basically to chemistry.
Well, you have to. The problem for me was that to get a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, you had to take all the chemistry classes and physics classes and math classes and everything to get a degree. So I had all the chemistry
Okay.
from a mechanical engineering degree.
All right. That's neat. It's nice to actually meet somebody with a background other than either a computer science degree or a chemistry degree making wine.
Well, I'm a mechanical engineering degree with a background in farming, so that's my history.
Well, I've always said that winery owner is a fancy name for farmer.
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of people don't realize.
Well, in fact, it's very interesting. And one of the things, if you come to our tasting room in McMinnville, one of the things that we emphasize is the fact that wine is an agricultural product. You can't make good wine without growing good grapes. So that's first and foremost.
Now the Chardonnay, same block.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only single vineyard; it's the same block.
Same block, yeah.
And you go with you use oak, but you don't use any new oak. You were telling me.
That's correct. I got my experience growing grapes and making wine in Burgundy. And the French are wonderful about really allowing the wine to express where the fruit's grown on the hill and the weather that it's grown in. And oak regimen tends to hide that and not let that be wholly expressed by the fruit. So you want to be gentle with the wood. And so for the Chardonnay, I want the benefit of the oak barrels. So it is fermented in barrel, but 50% of the barrels are once used already. So you've gotten rid of a lot of the char and characteristics of the barrel. And the rest of the barrels are neutral, which means all that's gone. So they're just using the barrel as an aging vessel. But then it also goes through malolactic, and it's a barrel for about 8 months. And so I want the benefits of the barrel fermentation to allow the wine to open up, to grow, expand, gives it a little more structure, a little fuller mouthfeel, nice long finish, but not to have all those oaky characteristics like butter, vanilla, and caramel, because those are not fruit characteristics, those are barrel characteristics.
You get the lemon flavors with this. You get a nice crisp acidity, and you get a tiny bit of that butteriness. It's like it's just to tone down the acid, not make it the most dominant thing. And one of the things that I've talked about before in the wine tap tips is that oak barrels are a spice rack and a reduction pan. So you use, correct me if I'm wrong, the reduction pan approach for an oak barrel, and the once used would almost be like just a pinch of salt or a pinch of pepper to round it off or to accentuate things without overwhelming anything.
Exactly.
So it's a lot of times, a great meal is just the simplest ingredients to bring out the best things in food.
Yeah, and in the case of the Chardonnay, it's, if you think about pairing it with food for dinner or whatever, it's really about the food, and then the wine is a complement to the food. And so my wine's made not necessarily to be quaffing on the poolside. That's what the Gris is for. The Chardonnay is a serious wine to really be considered with a nice meal.
So quaffing is Oregon terms for poundability.
Well, it's my term. Yes.
Now, what made an Iowa farm boy decide to go to Oregon, of all places, and Willamette Valley? I mean, what just made you up and decide to go there?
Well, the main reason is because of my experience living in Burgundy for 2 years and learned to grow grapes and made Pinot Noir. What that did is hook me back into farming. And I guess the farm boy was always there. It never left. So that experience said, yeah, I want to go back to that. And what could be better than marrying the two things in love I love in life I love most, wine and farming.
Okay.
It's growing grapes. So I knew I wanted to grow Pinot, and I knew I wanted to grow it in a cool climate. Willamette Valley's it.
Now, what are your thoughts on the big producers all of a sudden discovering and coming out with their versions of Oregon Pinots? What do you think that might do to the Oregon market?
Well, the first thing that I think we're all excited about is that they are going to bring an element of clout to the Willamette Valley that that the general public and the wine public in particular are going to go, oh, they're serious. You know, this is really, really serious stuff. You got the big boys coming in, and also they have, any one of them, like the Jackson family, for example, has more marketing clout and marketing dollars than all the rest of us in the Willamette Valley put together. So, I mean, we're just, excited about the fact that just one company can talk about the Willamette Valley louder than we've been able to over the years. So that's a very big plus, very, very much positive. The potential negative is that I think the mentality, and this is going to be a very general statement, but the mentality coming out of California is it's all about volume and producing a lot of wine and blanketing the market and covering the market, along with not being able to make a wine that is positioned for just a particular market or particular taste or particular like, but can cover the mass market. And what happens when you attempt to do that is now you're not making a Pinot Noir or a Chardonnay or even a Pinot Gris that is specific to where it's grown on the hill and different every year because of the weather. But you're blending all those things out and making a wine that you hope 75% of the market is going to like, every year, year after year.
Something like the way the major beer producers have bought up some of the
Craft beer,
small craft beers and then made it a mass-produced thing to try and have the largest broad appeal and taken everything out of it that made it so much of a craft beer. The fear in the Willamette Valley is that something like that might happen.
It could.
Okay, so you see, so there's a lot of potential pluses with all boats risings, and then there's little fears of, coin a phrase from the South, Yankee carpetbaggers coming up north and changing what Willamette is, why Willamette is Willamette.
Yeah. Well, they're coming from the south to the north, so they're coming they're coming back. But I think it and there's a lot of things that the Willamette Valley stands for and has existed and how it operates today that will mitigate that concern. In terms of our labeling, in terms of our liquor law requirements, in terms of percentages and things like that. So it's very strict. And so actually, probably more of my personal concern would be that whoever it is produces. And this would be a good thing to put into scale. The average producer in the Willamette Valley produces less than 5,000 cases of wine a year, total, 5,000. The average producer in California produces over 250,000 cases of wine a year. So think about that scale, okay? We're 1% of the market, the Willamette Valley is. And then, of course, you've got the big guys, which are producing millions of cases of wine, any individual single wine. So the fear is that, again, thinking about scale, the fact that they're wanting to make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of cases of wine, versus I'm wanting to make 300 cases of this, is that when you do that, you're just think about how many grapes you got to grow, how much you have to make that kind of volume. All your specificity in terms of location, hill, dirt, all those things, they go away. And our belief is that when those all go away, the potential is there for you to make a product, whether it's Chardonnay or Pinot Noir or Pinot Gris, that is of less quality and character than it would be in smaller volumes. And so the last thing I want is for someone in New York or West Virginia or New Orleans to be represented with a Willamette Valley Pinot Noir that is not consistent in terms of the quality and the standards and everything that we aspire to.
There's certain markers that when somebody takes a sip of a Willamette Valley wine, Pinot Noir, you want those things to be the things that pop, especially, let's say, your higher elevation Pinots that have that mushroom, the dark black cherry flavors, the little earthiness. And I guess one fear is that, expanding the Willamette appellation to where you were telling me below 400 feet elevation. You said earlier is a 400 to 1,000 foot elevation that makes Willamette in the valley.
In what's qualified to be in the, and there's a map that has the outline drawn out, and it has to be above 200 feet.
200 feet.
Okay, and below 1,000.
All right.
Okay, so the belief there, and of course there's still discussions going on and things can change, but if you go above 1,000 feet, it's very, very, very difficult to get the fruit right because you just don't get the heat units to be able to do that. You go below that, and they're entirely different soils. The below 200 feet, you've got consistently marine sedimentary, glacial flooding soils called Missoula floods that are at that level and below, that are great for growing grass seed or corn or wheat or whatever, and will grow a lot of grapes. Don't get me wrong, they'll grow a lot of wine grapes, but not of the quality that we're aspiring to make these kinds of wines.
Now, just out of curiosity, you have a daughter that's a sci-fi fan. I'm just curious, are you much of a science fiction fan?
Oh yeah, and it's interesting to make a distinct difference. I'm not a horror movie fan.
Okay.
But if you were to ask me, I'd say I'm a Trekkie fan.
You're a Trekkie fan.
I grew up on Star Trek, so Trekkie fan. Star Wars, Doctor Who, Harry Potter, those kinds of things. And my daughter Natasha, she's really wired for that.
So just out of curiosity, a couple quick questions on that. What's your favorite wine to drink when discussing Han Shot first?
Wow. I'd probably gravitate towards the Cuvée.
You drink the Cuvée?
Yeah, because again, kind of like I described with the Pinot Gris, it'd be my quaffing wine.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting back, having a drink and talking.
All right, and then favorite Star Trek captain?
Oh, there's only one.
There's only one?
There's only Kirk.
There's only Kirk.
Absolutely.
The Shat.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time and thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
Cheers.